Looking down at myself, I'm wearing a blue hospital gown, my body tucked tight into the perfectly folded blankets and sheets, as if I haven't moved an inch. The food tray cart is down by my legs, hanging over the bed, like a sentry awaiting orders. A brown leather coat is draped over it next to a half-empty water bottle. In the corner sits a pea-green plastic sofa chair. Then I see her. She's sleeping in the chair. She's maybe in her mid-30s. She has long blonde hair and is wearing a white t-shirt with a Mercedes emblem on it, lightly snoring. Maybe she can help. I start to speak, to call out to her, but my throat is too dry to allow it. Suddenly overcome with thirst, and without thinking, I reach for the water with my left hand. My left arm sends a jolt of white-hot pain up to my shoulder, slicing into my skull. The pain is so intense, I manage to find my voice. Ah! She stirs, sits up, then yells, "Oh my God, you're awake!" She's coming across the room to me, and for just a moment I notice her striking gray-blue eyes. Other footsteps rushing down the hall, bringing me back to this moment. "Honey, can you hear me?" Her voice turns down a level, and it stops my head from splitting apart. The nurse comes rushing into the room, her face half buried under a crazy pile of curly red hair. She seems way too young to be a nurse. "Mr. Lewis, try to stay calm," she says. I am calm. It's the blonde who needs calming down. They both start talking at the same time, so I can't understand a word from either of them. "I know you're excited, Lisa, but I need to make sure he's okay first." The blonde stops talking, but the nurse doesn't. "Mr. Lewis, can you hear me?" I attempt to speak, but my throat sticks together again, and I end up making a little growling sound before I break into a coughing spasm. A dry, "Yes, water," is all I can manage. The blonde spins the top of the water bottle and hands it to me. "Tiny sips," says the nurse. "I'll get you some ice chips in a minute." I want to guzzle down the water, to bathe in it, to stand under a waterfall with my mouth open and let it quench every pore of my soul. I force myself to take a couple of small swallows instead. It's the best water I've ever tasted. "Yes, I can hear you," I say. "What happened? Why am I here?" The nurse speaks slowly, as if she thinks I'm having trouble understanding English. "You had an episode of sorts, Mr. Lewis. You passed out." "Please, stop calling me that." I correct her. "Mr. Lewis is my dad. Call me Steve." She starts over. "Steve." Unable to contain her excitement for one more minute, the blonde jumps in. "Honey, what's the last thing you remember about Tuesday night?" I think for a moment. Tuesday night? Then the panic comes over me in a tidal wave. I can't remember anything about any night. I rack my brain searching for the last thing I can recall. It isn't last night. It isn't even last week. I can't remember anything, and I don't even know who these people are. I feel a cold shiver run up my spine to the base of my skull, sending goosebumps all over my body. I'm shivering. "What?" I start to get up. The IV pulls tighter on my arm, pinching my skin. I attempt to swing my legs off the bed, but they're stuck under the blankets. The nurse darts over and attempts to hold my arms. "Mr. Lewis, Steve, calm down," she says. "Calm down?" I push her back hard with my good arm, and she stumbles away from me, tripping backwards and falling flat on her bottom. I try to pull the blankets off my legs with one hand. It proves to be challenging. Just as I've almost got my legs free, the nurse springs up behind me and does something to my IV. I suddenly feel myself falling back into my pillow, back into the black again. Silence.